To order on this beautiful September 14th morning. I see we have a quorum. Anyone else out there that is not your typical, hey Jay? We have the typical cast of characters, like that guys, Mike, Paul, Stuart, James. Good to see all you guys out there. Were there any public comments, Joe?
No public comments.
All right. Minutes. Now, this is, I was talking to Paul, but walking on the way in without pennies, that puts a lot of responsibility on the rest of us to read them carefully, which Paul and I both have done. Are there any comments? Let's start with the first one, the August 24th.
No comments.
Any comments on those minutes?
Yep.
Motion to approve. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Greg. Second. Now
We have one number that I'm not recognizing, the 203-650-5743.
okay.
Can you identify? So.
It's John DeFederico.
Yeah. Oh, John. Sorry. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. And then the special meeting of August 29th. Nice, short, and sweet. Any comments on those meeting minutes?
It was a nice short meeting.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was.
Well
If only Wal-
well done.
If only Wal- yeah,
Whoever ran that meeting.
not run by Wahlberg, so, All right, motion to approve those minutes.
Yes.
Thank you, Paul. Second, Amy. Good. All right, general business and update. What's going on?
So I'll just, thank you everyone for coming to the Board of Selectmen on 9/5. The minutes have been released from that meeting. And just to reiterate, the 20,235,000 was approved for Turner. And $1.9 million for contingency for a total construction cost of 22,135,000. So that's right in line with what we've been reporting. It's the 20, I don't know if we want to still say 20 or say 2235, 1.9, but anyway, that's exactly what we've been reporting to to all the.
With an all new roof.
With all.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the questions were, supportive and typical what you would expect. There was nothing that was brought up out of the ordinary from what the committee would expect. So it all went by for everyone's perspective.
And we were basically done with the pre-construction phase. So we're out of the pre-construction phase. The money that was allocated for the pre-construction phase was $1.5 million. It's pretty much expended. So we have the 27.
So we're done with our flawless planning. Now we're just getting
Execute the 27. So that's really all I have for an update.
On the move. Thing going on there.
So the book Turner's on board. We've met with them a couple times. They went over to the police station to look at what it's gonna take to move over the lockers. We've talked to the 911 folks. We're getting that room ready. We still have some parts and pieces to put together for that room, but basically everything's contracted to make that move. And then Norcom's also on board, and they do most of the heavy lifting for all the radio stuff. So
They don't want to leave that stuff to amateurs appropriate.
no, they're very good company. So we're lucky to have them. They have a really good staff.
So Joe, can we take the other dispatch panel, if you will, and move it over to the first and plug it in, basically, and leave the other one there and then just do the crossover?
So there's gonna be a crossover. I won't get into that level of detail. There was talk about finding another console.
Yeah.
And just sourcing another console.
Okay.
From somewhere else in the world and bringing it over. So it's basically just a cutover at that point.
Okay.
It's gonna be done as a cutover.
Brian, did you have anything to report?
Good morning. The only thing that we are working on is we did get some code review comments that we need to coordinate answers back to the town of New Canaan and we should have that wrapped up in about a week. And that would then present it to Turner as far as another plan revision scope. But the comments were thorough. The comments, I say, were not substantial. So we're working on just crossing those Ts, dotting those Is for the town.
Good. And, for that note, the permit, right, so, just piggybacking Joe, as far as 39 Locust, yes, we've submitted that building permit, so, really, we're just waiting for that to finish its cycle, and, then we'll be gearing up to start in the field. We reached out to Sirocco, which is a mechanical electrical company that will help us with some of the minor mechanical electrical alterations that need to take place. We're gonna reach out to the building owners, fire alarm vendors, so that we can coordinate them for startup, and also the sprinkler contractor. We use vendor for somebody that's familiar with building, whatnot, that kind of thing. So we ordered, I think we mentioned this before, the long lead stuff, the refrigerated evidence locker. And so that's due in about the end of this month, the 25th. So things are gearing up, and we'll actually be live, I would guess, in about a week or two, depending on Brian Platts. Segueing into the big project, a lot of sort of similar activity, submitted the plans to Brian Platts yesterday. Got Tiger sign off on the front forms, and so that process is now initiated. And with the signing of the GMP, which we got last week, we're now finalizing the paperwork with all the subcontractors. It's a little back and forth. We've got to get their bonds, we've got to get their insurance in place and sign contracts and whatnot. So that some people move a little faster than others. So that'll probably take another couple of weeks before those are all kind of finalized.
Fine, when you have an agreement with these guys that all of a sudden, like, no, I'm not gonna sign this, and you gotta find somebody else to fill that sub throw. Or is it pretty?
We kind of asked that question before we compiled the GMP. When we were doing our scope reviews, we pointedly asked, is there any reason why you wouldn't move forward with the project? So, and.
So it typically doesn't happen.
Not at this point.
Okay.
Now, the bump in the road could be that they go to their bonding company, and then the bonding company wants to see, they want to evaluate risk, and they say, oh my goodness, there was a 50% spread between you and the next guy. I'm not sure that's a risk I want to take, or something like that. So that is a bump in the road that could surface. The one that concerns us the most on that was probably Grasso. We specifically asked that question. We haven't gotten the bond yet, but prior to award, they said, oh yes, we've had those conversations, and they asked us for some specific information on where our estimate was for the work, which was much closer to their number than the second number. So we haven't heard anything further, but that would be the one thing that would concern me.
Okay, thanks.
So once all the contracts are finalized, or during that process, or somewhat simultaneous to that process, we'll be starting the whole submittal process, which is frankly a lot of work, and it's probably Brian and my favorite part of the project, right? Basically, everything that goes into the building, there's a piece of paper that says, this is what you want, and Brian says, yeah, that's what I want. So it's a mountain of paperwork, it's a lot of back and forth, it is pure drudgery, but it's necessary. So, I love how you simplify it. So that process is about to begin. And it's nice, frankly, that we have this 3 months, because a lot of times you're doing it sort of simultaneous to try and build, and it becomes a little bit chaotic. So that's really going to be the next effort. As far as the pre-purchase material, the switch gear was submitted and it came back revised and resubmit. So that revision was made, and it's now back into Kohler for their review and approval.
The DOAS units have, actually been submitted and approved, so those are, off and running. And then finally, the generator, Cummins was a little slow on the uptake, and, we just got their submittal yesterday, and I had a little conversation with the head of sales and said, this is unacceptable, you need to recover some of this time that it's taking you to get and he agreed.
Good in the salesman, yeah.
You know, those idiots back to the last problem, look. This is the head of the department. Salesman. Right. Drop the ball.
They're from a customer, no.
So I'm gonna follow up on that and make sure it doesn't push it back out on the back. But, so those wheels are all turning and, you know, we're picking up momentum.
Storage space for the actual construction side itself, as the things come in, or there are people in the community we should be reaching out to now, or are we gonna be looking for, places to store pipes or heaven knows what, and also workers, cars and things like that, are we reaching out to, other, institutions around for, to help ease things?
Yeah, most of the stuff we'll store on site. We don't like things coming, way in advance. Certain subs will have their own Connex boxes to store pipe and some valuables that could tend to walk. But, for the most part, it's just in time delivery, so we try and do. And then the bigger stuff, obviously, we really schedule and, for, when we need a crane.
Because the cemetery has obviously been used for a couple other construction projects. I happen to be on the board of the cemetery, because why wouldn't I be?
Yeah.
You know, where they're not looking, to store more, our neighbors are
Yeah.
pretty fed up. But, I just throw that out there, is that a remote possibility?
We used it for the library for, extra soil.
Mhm.
That, there's not a lot of cut and fill here with material, so I don't think that's gonna be required. Parking is something that won't be a problem in the beginning. We do have some spots back by the house there, that we've identified. When we get to the peak, we're probably gonna have some overflow. Whether or not, you know, by that point, a lot of the site work in terms of footings and whatnot should be, in place, so we might be able to steal some spot above, but I think there were some conversations that the church might be able to provide. some
Yeah,
spots.
oh, I happen to be chairman of trustees of the church, there you go, so, they do have maybe 10 spaces on the side. Again, there's a nursery school there,
Yeah.
and so, you know, there's a lot of traffic, you know, at 9 in and noon with young children in the parking lot, so it's something that the church takes very seriously. Obviously, from a safety perspective, we wanna be good neighbors, but on the other hand, you know, we have to be, you know, it's not something where,
Yeah.
our young kids in the park.
Our timing would be when people get there.
Sure, yeah, you got it.
And then they leave around, 3.
Yeah.
So, I think we'll be good there. Most people don't, you know, they only have a half hour for lunch, they're not driving very far. And the road coach comes to the site, so, there's gonna be a lot back. But that's great if we can, consider that, going forward when we sort of exceed our capacity. What else? The update. Now, so, the calm before the storm.
Right, now,
Yeah.
and from a community perspective, of course, we talked about signage and making sure that the public is very aware of the new police location. Is there anything this committee should be doing in that regard? You know, these signs are not long lead time items or anything like that, but, you know, and I don't, you know, put an article in the paper now is sort of useless, people forget by the time it really matters. But, I assume,
I think we can talk to the new paper, the Sentinel, too, because a lot of people seem to be excited about that paper being a local, true local paper. We'll make sure that we have articles in that, and Andy will have to give interview reviews or something.
I mean, when this is thinking out loud, when do you think we start the real PR or communication campaign to let people know where the new police station is for 2 years?
I'm being asked now, you know, what's going on now. Now the questions are bubbling up, and I'm surprised we haven't gotten any questions, but the questions will start in November, believe me.
Yeah, those stuff, so I would suggest in October, we could definitely put up a sign
Yeah.
there, you know, it's the, future home of the town,
Yeah.
future home of the PD or temporary home.
So in 2 weeks, right? So in 2 weeks, we should probably start putting up some signs. Does that mean we should be ordering a sign now? Right,
And
we should, and what kind of signs should we be ordering? I think,
we should have a sign at South Avenue.
Yep.
You know, this will be closed on, you know, November 10th or whatever, future site will be there. Just to start people thinking about that.
Yeah.
They're not surprised.
I think by the time we get to the next meeting, and then we actually takes 2 to 3 weeks to get it in, then we're, you know, now we're at the end of October, I don't know. I think we should give people a little more lead time than that. I think we should decide probably about now, what kind of signs we should be ordering. When I say we should be ordering, I don't know who orders these signs, I don't know. The committee.
We can get the permanent, ones. I mean, it would almost be like introduction for a sign over at the PD, it's what I'm envisioning, I'm spitballing here, but we can start to get the verbiage down on that, so that we don't confuse people.
Right.
We have it up there too early, so might wanna go there, so we might, you know,
Right.
go there and say, oh, no, I gotta go there.
Yeah,
And then,
exactly right. I think, you know, beginning, middle of October is when the signs should probably start going up. That's probably, you know, middle of October is when, you know, an article or two in the newspaper.
And we'll be moving soon kind of thing, just to have people to start to know.
Yeah, so we're a month away, yes, sir.
That a webmaster is gonna be able to put this all over Facebook and social media, that people will automatically see it, because I don't know how many people look at a sign versus looking on social.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Who does that? Is that?
We have someone that's a strong social media presence for us, our officer CC. It's
But
great.
they're also
And the town has.
Yeah, yeah.
The town-
Yeah.
Tiger.
So CC and the town will be in charge
Work
of the
together.
social media,
Yes,
outreach, if you will.
yes.
Okay,
That's how I find out you're selling plots at the cemetery.
Yeah.
Advertising this.
what have you used, last place?
You know, two things could be, you could get, being the Sentinel, they're always looking for content, right?
Yeah.
And Mike Diamond too, we think
Yeah.
maybe he would do an interview with,
Sure.
you know, so kind of do like a PR on, you know, how the library did the New Canaan Library, and it's like, you know, something that has a little stickiness to it.
Right,
So,
right, pictures of the good buildings, things like
yeah,
Someone wanna have a press release?
yeah, I mean, something like that. And I was thinking, like, you know, how they often do, and I don't know if this is in the budget, but you know, you'll have the construction fencing up and then you have the thing on top that says, hey, this is what it's gonna look like, type of thing, you know, the sketchy thing.
Well, now a lot of people also have live cameras that.
Yeah.
Just.
Yeah, I think we decided against that for security reasons, but.
Yeah, I mean, the library did that, but that was a different beast.
They'll get us raising money.
that. Yeah, they raise that.
We've raised our money. I hope.
So, from a press release perspective. I don't know if the police department, again, is it a police department press release or a town press release?
Yeah.
It's a hybrid, I just don't.
Who's good at that? Greg Riley? Producers? I mean, some,
You know, just, Toddy knows that I used to own the Sentinel, or
Yeah.
Toddy knows where they grew up together.
yeah,
So she can get them, Peter, down here to do a profile or whatever, a sort of bespoke thing. So to just write a press release, we can get him.
That'd be great.
They're looking at stuff. just
They're looking, yeah, they're looking
They're
for.
trying to attract it, so.
yeah. And they have just, they have, they're they're trying to do Friday coffee stand, they're trying to like be the advertiser. So I'll try to go on, this Friday. Bring that, something like that.
But
Well, if anyone has any content they want to share specifically, be happy to compile it too,
right,
if there's anything specific.
Yeah, but you need the right message, because some people you talk to them like, why are we spending so much money? Look,
That's,
you know, we have 4 functions here, right? And what's the total amount of time since we first renovated the school? It's like 30 something, like,
80s, early 80s,
80.
81 or something.
so that's almost 40 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 40 years coming, or something that makes people think, oh, yeah.
And they gotta realize it wasn't full renovation either. The third floor was still a mess.
I-
and, mean, it's-
I'm just trying to think how to kind
They
of,
think, well, you renovated it, well, you really didn't.
yeah.
Yeah, well, Brian did a nice recap of that at one point too. Like one of the presentations you went through, there's a whole slide on that, so.
Yeah, Brian,
We have that, we have that information.
yeah, Brian's presentation on that is still the most showable, if you will, to tell people, what's going on. And, for most people, from a campaign, they wanna know, when they're not at their best, or when they're riled up a little bit, that you don't wanna make the wrong turn and go in the wrong place. Safety first. So, okay. Then as far as some next steps are concerned, next week we're presenting to the Board of Finance and to the Town Council, right, Tuesday night, Wednesday night. For the Board of Finance, they want, where the rubber meets the road as far as the,
I think very much like the selectmen's
Yeah.
presentation.
okay.
It's always good to have a sheet with the numbers, I mean, versus just telling them, but if we can have something that basically says, the whole project cost is this is how it's broken down, the GMP is this much, and the big items that it includes, and then what the total level of contingency, just like how it adds up, and how the money is, that's just a.
Was the Board of Finance gonna be making any decisions on how it's gonna be exactly paid for, logistically paid for?
The timing of the bonding?
Yes.
Well, we tend to like bond in arrear, like we'll spend the money first, and then I know I was talking to Ann, and there's probably a bond deal going out in, probably first quarter of next year, so, but it's really, we don't make the decision so much, like Ann would recommend as the cash flow comes,
Okay.
We provided her a cash flow analysis previously, so she was aware of what we thought the cash flow was going to be. We'll revise that again now that we're started in earnest. But we provided that originally so she could plan what bucket would go into it and what time. To then make sure that she's got enough money, on the town side, and then reimburse us as we go, so.
Right, I mean, as far as this.
Sometimes we spend a lot, right?
Our building committee is obviously interested in all the logistics of the funding. I don't think they're necessarily looking to us to make any decisions regarding it. It's the town professionals that decide this, and the Board of Finance that decide this. But we just want to make sure they have any information they need, the cooperative, so that everything is.
Yeah. It's really cash flow, it's a really cash, it's
Right, it's on her, so yeah.
Yeah, it's on her. Yeah.
And speaking of Ann, we still, the logistics of paying for the actual exchange of changes and things like that, how the town wants, how Ann wants us to, as a building committee, deal with that.
Yep, that's it's a future meeting of
Right.
KP for prices, yeah.
Yeah, so we haven't forgotten that. The only other thing I have from a next steps perspective is, Chris Shipper reached out to me, about the fact that apparently in 1924 or 25, capital was put in the cornerstone of the then high school. And he was curious, is that something that's going to be opened up? And I said, frankly, I don't know.
I'm sorry, so what's the support?
There's
Yeah,
there's
the
cornerstone,
Yeah.
and there's a time capsule
Oh,
in the cornerstone, like, people do with those. And, I don't think necessarily we're going down to a point where we will be opening that up, but that's a lot
I
more.
wouldn't open it up just for that purpose, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
No.
why would you?
We would not do it just for,
Case?
we wouldn't do it for kicks.
Yeah.
But if it's open, if it's open, maybe something that's gonna be met with, it would be something to consider, but I don't think we're really getting to that kind of.
It sort of depends where it is. If it's actually in the foundation wall, then we won't be finding it.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Very often it's inside at the library. It was not exactly where we did find it.
So if you find it, you'll
Yeah.
let us know.
Okay.
Did I just say what year this was?
Uh,
20, did you say? You didn't say.
you know what, I'm trying to remember, Chris Shipper has a lot more information on it, I'm going by memory of reading his email.
I was just gonna say, if it's 25, it might be worth, because that'll be a year from, starting, that'll be 100th anniversary, it might be a reason to pull that out.
So, bottom line, I'll reach out to Chris and, let him know that, well, if it's something that doesn't, impede anything with the construction, we're not opening up walls to, define this, but if it's something next to a wall or something like that, we'll pay attention for it. What information do you have, Chris, about, where potentially, could be, so I will pursue that with Chris, see what information he has.
So along that lines, so Robin Bates Mason reached out. They want to take whatever plantings they can, like they did with the library, and repurpose them. And so Joe and I went back and forth, and he basically said, anytime, just take them. But that's kind of cool, just recently.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She's
no,
doing
it's
that
a
beautification.
beautification.
Yeah, beautification.
Yeah.
And they'll come back in and they're gonna come back and landscape the place when it's done, presumably, which is everything.
Well, we're professional, I mean,
We have some landscaping.
we have landscaping, so I know it's a big part of the PNC, meeting, actually, about the landscaping and, the type of plants that are being put in and stuff like that, so I think, we committed to PNC to do what we said we were going to do. After that's done, Beautification League can do what they want to do, well, I'm gonna say PNC and Beautification League are always, working closely together, so what they're gonna be doing.
Yeah, I mean, there's really limited landscaping in this project,
Yeah.
just like in the town hall, the beautification league came in at the end and donated a lot of things you see around.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that they're gonna make the police department more in the community,
Yeah,
at the end, so, but we haven't had conversations.
okay, so we're, as far as all these conversations are concerned. Number one action item really is communication, starting the ball on the communication of, where the temporary police station is gonna be, starting to get, signage, starting to get some, things placed, I'll reach out to Greg Riley. CC is good, and CC Greg will probably talk, and Greg is the person to come, right, close it up.
He's the paper guy, he's the newspaper guy, yeah.
Yeah.
He's right.
And, Branson gets some of those things, so.
So we're gonna be, move, is it Thanksgiving time?
Yep.
So pretty much, okay.
Okay.
So far, knock on wood, we're still on target for that. So instead, there's just a couple items and we're still waiting on, here for the generator, we're always gonna ship in October, so should be good.
Okay. Our next meeting is September 28th. Is that, do you see us having a lot to discuss on the 28th, or is that a meeting that we should, hold back until October 12th? The only relations will be on the, probably on communication and something back, I guess, we can decide,
Keep it.
we'll keep it for now and, we'll see.
Keep it,
Yeah, it's just a DD for me to cancel in 2 weeks, so yes, for me to cancel today.
Yeah, all right.
So, there is one other item on the agenda.
Oh, yes,
Gene,
item 5, G.
so anyway, this is more of a formality, just kind of to refresh everybody's memory here. When going back to, so what the item on the agenda is to review and vote to authorize site to proceed to phase 3, construction and post-construction tasks. Of the owner's rep agreement. So the owners back in November or October of 2022. Slam basically was amongst other bidders was interviewed. And we decided that we went into executive session on November 10th, 2022. And we finalized all their contract. At the time, we were only authorized for the pre-construction. So I was only empowered to authorize them up to the pre-construction portion, but we reviewed their own contract. So there's an option in their contract, which is $359,440 which is for the construction and administration phase, which includes closeout. So this is all stuff that was previously reviewed over a year ago.
But we paid for half the work and now this is gonna do the hard
We
work.
paid for the pre-construction phases, but we did not have money, nor so I couldn't receive authorization for that particular portion of the money. So I need to go in front of the board of selectmen and request the $359,440. And I want to just, either, I think it's appropriate that we vote on that, because at the time, the way it was written was that, the Department of Public Works was authorized to finalize the negotiation of the contract, which was really just the verbiage and that stuff is in place. But we weren't authorized to spend the $359,000.
Just right, so that payment to Gene, is that one time, or is it the payment that will be paid over time during the construction?
It's for the whole construction phase, so it's basically for the next, up to.
But how is it
Based on that.
Oh, no, it's effort driven, it's a monthly fee.
Got it,
Okay.
okay. And it's all in the budget.
So he's not taking it, going down to Vegas and he'll receive it again.
I think so, I hope so.
All right, so we need a motion to approve the 350.
To move to phase 3, with SLAM Construction Services for $359,440.
In,
So,
second, all those in favor? Okay, unanimous,
Excellent,
thank you. Okay, thank you, Gene.
Thank you.
All right, is there anything else that needs to be, no?
Yeah.
Just one thing, I'm not sure, Ty and or Brian, but on the statement of special inspections, did you submit that, Ty, with your permit?
No, not yet, I think, is that an issue, Brian?
We have it,
We have it, but the testing lab is still TBD.
yeah, and that's okay. I think as long as we put the special inspector on there, which
That's
I'm not
on
sure. Yeah, did we do that, Brian?
Yeah, that's the structural engineer, so that is on the form.
So that's on the form. So it would to TBD, we are, I've collected some bids in the next couple of weeks. I'll be sending over the bids for that portion of the work for the committee to review. And we have time for that. Obviously, nothing's really going to happen till December 1st, but basically to line them up to do the testing as required in that statement of special inspections. So he may ask for it, Ty, and certainly ready to go if you need it.
Okay.
And Mike, we go to the town council on Wednesday, I believe. We'll be talking the same things we did with the board of selectmen and with the board of finance. We're really through the pre-construction phase. Everything is within the initial range of costs that we said going in. I think we'll be talking a lot about communicating the transition to temporary police headquarters to the public. I think town council obviously be very interested in that as well. And so that's what we'll be doing on Wednesday with you guys.
Great.
All right?
Good. Okay.
Yes. All right, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We said Walter can't get us out of here in 36 minutes.
And it was quicker. Just for the record.
Thank you.